Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Hey, welcome everybody. Another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck, and I want to thank you for joining me this Monday evening. We're getting close to winter. Here it is, it's fall, but the temperatures have really dropped. It's almost beginning to feel like winter here in New England. I want to welcome everybody. A lot of familiar faces. Jill just popped in. Lehia coming all the way from Kentucky. Bill, Brian, Bob, Larry, Alan. Unfortunately, our other Alan told me that he's not going to be available for the next several weeks. He's got other obligations. And we have Bill joining us brand new. So everybody welcome Bill. He's from the New Haven Camera Club. So awesome. I don't know if some of you know him. Tends to be a very close-knit group of photographers here in Connecticut. Everybody seems to know each other. So anyway, who just popped in? Catherine, how are you? All right. Tonight's edition is, like it says here, Lightroom. And I'm actually going to take a step back from a lot of the things that we've been discussing lately. We've gotten really heavy into photo editing. We discussed how to edit photos using the black and white method. We discussed some color theory. We discussed toning with different aspects of Lightroom, everything from using our color balance to give us, a cooler or warmer tone, to split toning, or what used to be called split toning, and now it's more of getting into more of that cinematographic coloring, kind of like vocabulary. The two seem to be merging nowadays. But what I want to do is take a step back to some of the basics. Not only do we have new people joining us, but it's also nice to have a refresher. And I think there might be some new things that I'll be covering today that, I either may have glossed over it in the past, or hopefully present you with something new. And let me actually share my screen. That way you guys see. There we go. Everybody see my screen nice and large?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. What I want to talk about is actually this bar right here. All right, this toolbar down at the bottom. Okay, because it's something we kind of glossed over in the past, and it just kind of sits there. People have used it, but they really haven't probably paid too much attention. So I want to give it a little bit of love during this session. And then, Bill, you have a question. We'll get to your question afterwards, unless I can somehow work it into this, because there are some crossovers. Okay. So let me just bring this up. All right. As you guys know, I'm a big proponent of, let me go. There we go. I'm a big proponent of using keyboard shortcuts in order to make the workflow a little bit faster. It's not so bad if you're just a hobbyist and you're working on one or two images at a time. But even as a hobbyist, we've been to photo shoots where we come back with, 100, 200, 300 photos in our camera that we have to kind of sort through and make sense of. So for that reason, I love to stress the fact that you should get used to working with keyboard shortcuts. Now, as you are aware, let me switch here. I typically work with a tablet. We've had discussions about this. This is a Huion tablet. It's a little less expensive than a Wacom, but Wacom tends to be the Rolls Royce of tablets. But Huion and a couple other manufacturers really put out some good products, and I really like the Huion, so that's what I tend to use. Now, it does take some getting used to working with a pen as a mouse device, because it behaves a little bit differently than a mouse. So my suggestion is, if you switch over to this, and I know, Bill, you said you were switching over to this, there's a learning curve, there's an adjustment period. Some people tend to get frustrated and toss this aside in preference for the mouse, but just stick with it. It does get easier, and it'll get to the point where you'll never go back to a mouse once you have this. But anyway, the way I normally operate is I'll have this in my primary hand, and then I'll have my secondary hand on the keyboard with the, to access the shortcut keys. And there are certain basic shortcut keys that you're going to want to kind of be familiar with. And I have some of the more basic ones here. The general view, you don't really, I barely use any of these. The only one I use is the one for grouping. Oops. It's not going to let me stay, with my spotlight. There we go. Yeah, it's not going to let me. Okay. The one for grouping images, I tend to use that, and the zoom key. All right. I'll sometimes use that, but typically if you just click on the image, it typically, zooms in and out. Okay. In the library module, all right, so this one here, I will toggle between the E for loop, all right, or the G for grid. And what that does is, by default, you're in the grid view, all right? That's what the grid view looks like. And then at any point, you want to say, okay, I want to see what this looks like up close. I'll hit the letter E, and I can very much look at the details and then go back to sorting. The other one that I tend to use is the letter N, which is for compare. Why N for compare, I have no idea. And we've all come back with a series of images that are very similar because we tweaked something small, either something within the composition, we shifted over a little bit, or we played around with the exposure, or we thought maybe we caught them with their eyes closed and we took another what's called a safety shot. So we may have 2, 3, 4, 5 images that from the grid view, they all look very, very similar, but we want to be able to give ourselves a little bit more of a up-close view. So what you can do is you can select multiple images, okay? And to select multiple images, you just click on the first one, press the Shift key, click on the last one in your series, and at that point, hit the letter N, and it allows you to compare all 4 images at the same time, okay? And you can say, okay, well, this one definitely has the eyes closed. I don't want that one. And this one is the one that I want to pick. That's the one you pick, okay? So the letter N allows you to compare, okay? Now, actually, here's where I can tie in Bill's question. He says when he selects multiple images and you want to get back to what, just a single image, you said, right, Bill?
I had to unmute. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How can you get back to a single image? All right. Well, in this particular case, I am in the compare view. All right. So let me just go back to the grid view because this is typically what you're used to, okay? And if you notice, these 4 images are highlighted with one highlight being more bright than the other 3, because the one that is highlighted is what's called the active image. The active image. Because in the develop module, the develop module can only display one image at a time. The grid view can display multiple images at a time, okay? So you can have multiple images selected as we did for the compare view, but if we go into the develop view, you can see we can only see one image at a time, even though we have 4 selected down in our film strip down below, right? And if we want to kind of preview all those 4, all you got to do is just hit the left or right arrow key, and it's going to toggle to the next image, to the next image, to the next image, and it's going to come back around to the first one, all right? Because we only have 4 images selected. If you didn't have any image selected, it would just keep going through your entire film roll, all right? But now here, one of the problems is if you have the auto sync button here activated, all right? Anything you do on the active image is going to mirror that to all the other images in the selection, all right? So for example, here, if I decide I'm gonna bring the exposure down, all right, you see that it brought the exposure down on my initial image. And if you look down in the film strip, you see the additional 3 images were also modified. So if I toggle, you'll see everything has been modified with that, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, you know, very frustrating when that's not what you want to do, okay? Either you forget to unselect, all right, or you forget to remove the auto sync. So let me just bring that back to 0, okay? And to avoid that, the easiest thing is to take the auto sync off. And that's this little toggle switch. Let me zoom in. Oops.
That is what I do, but what happens is,
yep,
I leave auto sync off.
Right.
I highlight, then I click sync to do my changes.
Yep.
Fine. But I also have the same problem if I highlight all of them, then export, and let's say I want to do something different with just
one. Yep. Yeah, so we'll get that in a second. All right, so now if I decide that I'm going to change my exposure on that one, you'll notice if you look down in the film strip that it did not apply that change to the other 3. But the other 3 are selected, okay? So now how can we unselect? Let me just undo. I don't want to keep that exposure. All right. If you want to undo one of these, all right, now, all right, so right now, the one that is the primary highlight is that first one in the series of 4. If I click on the image of the next one, you're going to see that the highlight shifts over to that second image. And if I click to the third one, that highlight's going to shift over. But all 4 images are still selected. Okay, to deselect everything but one, what you need to do is you actually need to click on the frame. But there's a caveat to that. The top part of the frame contains information. If you click on anywhere on that information, it's going to allow you to change what information is being displayed into those 4 little corners, okay? So all of that is customizable. So you can, like for example, for mine, the upper left-hand corner shows me the sequence, all right? The image sequence, starting from 1, going to however many images you have, okay? Right below that, I have my cropped dimensions, So after I've applied some kind of crop, it's going to show me what that new crop dimension is, not the original image crop, okay? And then on the right-hand side, I have the copy name or file base name, all right? The reason I have that is because sometimes I will change the name of the file. So I want it to reflect what the new name is. So if I keep it just to the file base name, it may not give me the full information. And then, of course, the file extension. Now, a lot of people may not need that. All right, most people say, well, I only work with raw files. I know all my images are raw files, but because the way I work, I tend to export my raw file to Photoshop. And when, excuse me, when it does that, it automatically generates a TIFF file. So when it imports back into Lightroom, it's going to import a TIFF file. And on the surface, the two images side by side may look very, very similar. Okay, so to avoid confusion, I want to be able to at a glance see whether I'm working on the whether I'm looking at the raw file or whether I'm looking at the TIFF file. That's the one that's been edited. So I like this information, but depending on how you work, you can go ahead and change these to whatever you want. And as you can see, there is a plethora of options available for all of those. Okay? All right, so to deselect, let me go back. To deselect all but the one that you want to be working on, don't click on the image. Click anywhere on the frame, and typically I just either below the image or just above, all right? And that deselects everything but that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the quickest way to do it, okay? Now, let me go back to the compare view. The compare view operates a little bit differently. I tend to use this when I shoot headshots. So what happens is, excuse me, my voice is already starting to crack. When I, oh boy, not a good sign today. It's this change of the weather, I'm telling you. When I do headshots, I will typically keep my eye out for like the real winners, the keepers. Okay, but I may have 4, 5, 6 keepers that I have to distill to 1 or 2 images that are going to be delivered. So at that point, I turn it over to the client to make their decision. And I usually guide them and I tell them, by process of elimination, let's get rid of the ones that you really, really don't like. So it's a great way of taking, 6 images down to the one that they really, really like. Okay. So to deselect images, in this case, one at, boy, excuse me. To deselect images one at a time, what you want to do is you want to, on the main part of the screen, you're going to select it. And this is a pet peeve of mine. I wish Adobe would work on making the visual interface a little bit more obvious as to what's being selected. They put this tiny, thin little dark line around all of these. Now, in this particular case, my slides have a light color. But imagine an image that has a dark background. That dark little thin line is not enough to differentiate which one's being selected and which one's not. All right, so I wish they would do something, but that's just a pet peeve. Okay, so by order of elimination, you're going to say, okay, I don't like that second one. What you're going to do is you're going to hit the not the forward slash, but the backslash, which is towards the top part of on the right side of your keyboard. Okay, you hit that backslash. Oh, wait a minute, what happened? Or did I get it wrong? Oh, the forward slash. Oh, I was right the first time. The forward slash, which is where your question mark is. Okay, and it will remove it from view. It will deselect it. Okay, so let me just put that one back in. Okay, so we want this one gone here. We click on it, hit the slash button, and it's gone from view. It says, okay, I don't like this last one here. Hit the slash. I don't like that one. Hit the slash, and we are left with our pick. Okay, so Bill, you can use the same thing, but you know, I just find it easier from the grid mode to just hit anywhere on that outside part of the frame. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so let me pull this back up. All right. All right, so in the library mode, E for, they say loop, but I say E for enlarge. So basically you're filling up your screen with that one image. G for grid, N for survey. Okay. The other one that it's really not here is the in the edit mode, and I'll probably show it to you later. You can use a hotkey to toggle before and after edits. So anything that you do before and after, you make a change. Okay. So for example, let's go to the let's just make this change. Okay. And you've applied some edits, you've made changes to it, you've added some masks, you played around with colors, and you want to see what kind of progress you made from your initial edit. Okay. What you can do is the shortcut key is that backslash. Okay, this is the one that's on the upper right hand corner. All right. If you hit that backslash, it toggles before, after, before, after. And it's a great way. Now, in this particular example, I'm using a very drastic edit change. But oftentimes when we're making edits, they tend to be small steps at a time. And sometimes our eyes get used to it so easily that it's like, did I do anything? This is a great way of checking because it allows you to really see that toggling back and forth exactly what it is that you did. All right, so that's a handy. Yeah.
Doc, does that just show you the last change you made, or from the?
Nope, all your changes. It takes it back to the initial stage. So it toggles before you make any changes to your current edit stage.
Okay.
All right, so it's basically all or nothing. Okay. All right. All right, so excuse me. Right now I'm just kind of touching on the shortcut keys, but what I want to concentrate on in my discussion are these here, which are for our pick and our, oh man, my voice is really cracking today. I apologize. Our picks, our star ratings, and our color ratings, and we'll break those down in a little bit. But what I want to point out is that, let me go back to the grid view. We have this bar down at the bottom. Okay. And this allows us to do pretty much everything that we've just described here. We have the first part, which allows us to go from grid view to expanded view, as if you were, to press the letter E. Okay. Just by clicking on the button here. All right. So we go to loop view, we go back to grid view. All right. Just by clicking on these. Okay. And we have our compare views. All right. Except this one, instead of toggling back and forth like with the shortcut key, this one will put them side by side. Some people like this. Me personally, I don't, because I want to see the full view. And that toggling back and forth allows me to really, really see exactly what changes were made, rather than doing a compare and comparison. All right. But this one allows you to compare two different images, where the toggle only compares the before and after of your original. All right. So this comes into play, for example, if you're trying to match the editing of another image. Okay. This will come into play. But me personally, I don't use this view all that much. Okay. And the thing is that you can toggle how you want this arranged. All right. So for example, here we are side by side. Okay. And if we look over on this side here, okay, you're going to notice that we have these additional ones where it will flip it. Okay. Between what you have selected and what your candidate is. All right. So, or basically what you are trying to compare against. Okay. So you can basically flip these. And there's also, let's see, am I missing something? There should also be, I thought there was a way of stacking it. I might be remembering something else. All right. I don't remember. Okay. All right. But anyway, that's the compare. All right. And then the survey mode, this is the one that I mentioned with the letter N. It allows you to basically have multiple selections to compare against, and then using the backslash key, you can just remove candidates from it. Okay. All right. Let me go back to and get rid of that. Okay. All right. So that's a survey mode. The next one is allows you to identify and tag your images with people. This is good if you do a lot of like family photos and you want to kind of keep track of who's in your photo. So that way you can do a search. You can use the search feature to search for images with, let's say, grandpa in it. All right. But it only works when you tag the people in it. All right. Now, we haven't gone too deep into this. Maybe I'll do it as a full-fledged feature, but it uses AI to sort through your images. And what it does, it has facial recognition built into the system that you can train to recognize certain faces. So for example, we all photograph our family. Who's in our family? We got mom, dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, okay, maybe even the family dog, okay? And they tend to be in so many photos, okay? After a while of it recognizing mom and dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, and the family dog, all right, it will start automatically finding these people. It recognizes that it's a face. It will compare against its database, and it'll say, oh, here's a picture of mom. Do you want to tag it with mom? And then you just say yes, okay? And it's pretty incredible. I've had it recognize faces that a face in a crowd, it recognizes because it's been tagged previously, and it'll say, hey, you know, I found Uncle Louie in this group, family group. Do you want to tag it? All right. So remind me, this is a feature I might want to explain to you guys if it's something that's of interest, but that's available for you here. Okay. The next one is another one that probably deserves a little bit of explanation, and it's the spray can. And this is another one of those that me personally, I don't use because I find it very clunky. Now, Bill, you mentioned taking a photo, editing it a certain way, and then synchronizing that edit across multiple images, right?
Yes, yes.
This might be a tool worth looking into because you can do that right from the grid view, all right? So let's say you take the first image here and you apply some edits, okay? You brought the exposure down, you know, punched up the highlights, you did whatever it is, all right? And what you do is you take your paint, all right? And as soon as you click on it, you're going to notice that it has that little up and down arrow, all right? This allows you to oops, that's not what I want. Come on. Clear. What the heck? Well, select all, clear. Really? It's not letting me deselect it. What is going on here? Oh, see, there's my facial recognition. Okay. What is going on? Got a hiccup. Never fails. Always one, right?
It's Monday.
It's Monday. Okay, why is it not? Okay, come on. It's one. All right, so let me click on. Man, if it's not one thing, it's another. I tell you. Where is it? Painter. Let's turn it off. Yep. Not going to let me do it. It's stuck. It's stuck on my screen. Well, what I wanted to explain is you can select what kind of spray technique you want it to do, whether it's a develop or whether it's a keyword like what I'm stuck on now. You know, and what it allows you to do is it'll take whatever that effect, or in this case keyword, that you want to copy across, and with the spray can selected, you just literally click and drag across all the images you want it to apply to, and it will copy it across those multiple images. All right, so rather than doing a control copy and then pasting your effects into those, you literally are spray painting whatever it is, okay? So obviously I'm stuck and I don't know how to unstick this.
Excuse me, sir. You have a new message.
Yeah, and my phone's going off now. Okay. And yeah, I don't know how to unstick this now. Damn it. Always fun, isn't it? Always fun. I'm stuck. All right, let me see. Oh, no, hold on. Let me just see if I minimize it, if it'll do anything. No. Oh, yeah, there it goes. It's gone. Oh, all right. Where it says file name, there we go. The up and down little arrows, all right. You can spray a new capture time if you need to correct a camera that's out of sync, all right. The edit time, the rating, the pick, file extension, any of those, all right. Custom order. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Where am I? Oh, I'm not even in the right place. Painter, there we go. All right, there we go. Keywords, label, flag, rating, metadata, settings. There we go. We can toggle whatever that is, and we can spray it. Let's see, paint, settings. All right, exposure. I haven't used this in forever, and it's not letting me do what I need to. Settings. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Black and white, landscape, there we go. All right, we can pull right from our user presets, okay? Our defaults, a curve, grain, vignette, sharpening, anything, any of these, okay? We can just pretty much just take those and paint it across, okay? Metadata, I don't use that. Rating, okay? It's another way of doing it. You know, you say, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to mark everything with a 3-star, all right? And then you just spray across and it's going to set everything to 3-star ratings, okay? It's a little clumsy. That's why I don't use it. As you can see, I'm struggling with it because I have no experience with it. But it's something that you might want to play around with if it fits your needs. Okay, let me just reset all of those. Okay. All right. Moving on. The next one is sorting. Okay, we can sort our grid by whatever criteria we want. Usually I just do file name because it's coming off the camera with a sequential file name, and that works for me. But you can sort it on any of these. Okay. Now we get into what I actually want to discuss today. All right. But before we get into that, I want to skip over, and the last part of this is you can rotate your image using these arrows. Okay. You can use the left to right arrows on screen to go to the next image. This is a little bit clumsy. I'd rather use the keyboard, you know, hit the keyboard left and right, and it does the same thing. You could also create a slideshow, an impromptu slideshow. You can just select a series of images, hit the little play button, and it's going to generate a slideshow for you, and then you just kind of sit back. This is great if you want to use this, to present, family photos at an event, and you don't want to go too crazy with setting up something, you want to get something a little bit fancy without a lot of extra work. This allows you to do a very quick, slideshow. Oh, did that one come across okay? Or did that screw up my Zoom presentation?
It went black.
It went black. Okay, that's weird. All right. I guess it doesn't work well with Zoom. Okay. Well, needless to say, it does a slideshow for you. So I apologize. I just realized as I glanced over my monitor that it was solid black and I wasn't sure if it went across. But using that little play button will create a slideshow of whatever images you have selected. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of those? I'm kind of glossing over those because some of them are a little involved and it's really not the topic for today. I actually want to get into the ratings and how to incorporate them into your workflow. Okay. And let me select one so that way you can see they're highlighted here. All right. And for ratings, we have three different categories. Okay. We have flags, all right, which I've discussed in the past. I'll go over again for our new members. We have flag statuses, all right, either picked, unpicked, or picked for extermination, as I say. Then we have our star ratings, everything from 1 star to 5 star. Everybody's pretty much familiar with how star ratings work, okay? And then we have color ratings, all right? And they're available, you can see them right here, red, yellow, green, blue, and violet, okay? And I'll go over those in a second. As a matter of fact, let me click on all those and take the ratings off, okay? Let me pull this one back up. All right. Okay. First thing, oops, it's not going to let me draw on this. Oh, it is. All right. Flag statuses. Okay. I tend to use flag statuses to pick which images I'm going to devote time to. All right. And the way I use flag statuses might be a little bit different than or counterintuitive to how some of you may think about flag statuses, right? We have 3 states to the flag, all right, seen here. The first one is the pick. Second one is unpick. And then the last one is X for reject, meaning, it's labeled as a rejected image, okay? And by default, all your images are brought into Lightroom unpicked, okay? So what that means for most people is, they're in kind of like a state of limbo, all right? You haven't gone through the action of selecting anything, all right? And this is where my way of thinking is a little bit different. The way I approach it is when I import all my images, by default, I say I reject them all, meaning I do not want to put any effort into editing those images by default, okay? So what this means is that from that position, they could go one of 2 ways, all right? One, they're going to be elevated to the position of where I want to spend energy on them, okay? Or they're going to get demoted to the most bottom rung where they're going to go into trash, okay? So by default, I automatically assign them that they're of no interest to me. I'm not going to spend any energy, all right? So the way I do is I will have my finger on the letter P and the letter X, all right? Typically, forefinger and pinky allows me to reach those keys, okay? Whatever's easiest for you. And the majority of the time, I'm going to be using my index finger on the letter P, okay? If it's more comfortable, just use one finger, and on the occasion that you need to exterminate something, you just switch over to the letter X, all right? So let me show you how that works. We'll go back to the grid view. Where's my grid view? All right, why is my Lightroom misbehaving today? Really? Or is it my mouse that's not working? No. It's Lightroom, folks. Of course it is. Grid view. All right. Yep. And I'm frozen again. I am frozen. It's for those of you just joining me for the first time. I apologize. This is my luck. I'm frozen. All right. Let me see what I can do here. Can I? It doesn't want to. All right. Shift F4, right? Yep. Nope. Not letting me do squat. Tab. Let's see if I can do it that way. Quit. Yes. Skip. Let's relaunch. Okay. And see if that fixes the problem. Okay, it's not relaunching. Now we have issues. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, let's go. Okay, sorry about that. Let's get back into, no, okay. All right. I have a selection of images. All right, I want to fly through them very, very quickly. Okay, so using my plus and minus key, I can enlarge or reduce the size of my thumbnails. All right, I look through. By default, these I don't want to work on. So I come across and it says, oh, I want to work on this one here. All right. So I will then use the letter P. And what the heck is going on here? Oh, I see what it is. Let me make sure that's off. Okay, grid. All right, the letter P. And the way I have mine set up is every time I hit one of the flag states, it's automatically going to advance to the next slide. Okay, so I hit the letter P, it's going to kick me to the next one. All right, I scan through, I say, okay, I want to edit this one. I hit the letter P. Oh, and now it's not advancing. Of course not. Okay. And it allows me to very quickly sort through the images that I want to work on. If I have any questions at any time, again, remember, you have the ability to do a survey. It says, okay, well, these 3 slides look the same. I want to pick the best one. I hit the letter N. All right, from here, I can say, okay, I want to select this first one, okay? So you click on it, make sure the frame is on it, and, all right, make sure that sync is off, otherwise it's going to copy the flag status across. Hit the letter P. Another pet peeve of mine, look how small they make that little indicator right there. That's tiny, all right? And look at the difference between picked and exterminate. They're almost identical. So I hate that, okay? Why they can't make it bright and white and flashy and in your face, I'll never know, okay? All right, and we'll unpick that one. Okay, so this, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thought I heard somebody ask a question. All right, and then I can just hit the letter G, returns me back to my grid view, and you can see that first one's been selected. I click on the frame, not the image, and it deselects everything else. Okay. So I'm able to fly through 100, 200 images rather quickly. If I come across one of those instances where I photographed a sidewalk, as I normally do, because I carry my camera on my, on a shoulder strap, I can then say, okay, well, this one, I know I'll never use because it's a sidewalk picture, because it came out too blurry, because the exposure is so way off, I'll never use it. I will hit the letter X, and you'll notice that it puts the X'd out flag in its place, okay? So we have the 3 statuses. We have unpicked, we have picked, and we have exterminate or unwanted. All right. Now, I use the term exterminate, but it's not physically doing anything to the image. The image is still there. All it is it's flagged for later deletion. Okay. And I'll usually do that at the end of the workflow. Okay. All right. So that's how I use flags. Any questions on flags? Okay. The next part is the stars, all right, the stars. And everybody's pretty familiar with, 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, what they normally represent, okay? And right next to that, we have colors, all right? And just like we have 5 stars, we have 5 colors. We actually have more colors than that, but readily available, we have, those 5 colors. All right, let me pull this back up. Hope I don't get stuck back here, okay? And just like we have shortcuts for the pick flags, we have shortcuts for the stars and for the colors, and they are the numbers along the top of your keyboard. Or if you have a numbers pad, you can use the numbers pad, okay? 0 obviously represents no stars, okay? Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stars. And then from there, it switches over to colors, okay? And the way I tend to memorize this is just think in terms of a traffic light, green, yellow, red, and then blue being the last one. So 6, 7, 8, and 9 gives you 4 readily accessible numbers just off the keyboard. If you want the purple, you actually have to go to the toolbar down here, and you can select it. Okay. All right. Now, this is where I'm going to sidestep and say, okay, well, I have the option of stars and I have the option of colors. All right. How can I use them? All right. And this is where you have to do some searching within your workflow, and you have to assign them some type of value. All right. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, though, the flags and the colors are only recognized in Lightroom. Flags and colors are only recognized in Lightroom, meaning that if you take that image file and send it to somebody else, they're not going to know if it's been picked. They're not going to know if it's been labeled green. Okay. However, star ratings is part of your metadata. You can actually set stars in your camera if you want. Okay. And because they are part of the metadata, any star rating you assign in Lightroom is going to get written to the metadata of the file. And if you take that file and share it, that star rating is going to travel with that file. All right. So that might be something that's worthwhile you understanding. Okay. So how do we use it? Well, me personally, I hate star ratings. All right. I either want to put effort into developing an image or I don't. For me, it's pretty much black and white. Okay. And I may have 3 or 4 images that I'm going to spend time editing. And yes, one of those may be a stronger image than the others. But I can see that with my own eyes. I don't need a star to tell me that information. All right. However, if you're the type that needs to sort your images into my favorites and my least favorites, a star rating may be useful to you. Okay. It's also and it's also a good way of moving through a selection of images. For example, let's say you are preparing for a competition and you go through your library and you say, okay, you know, I have 10 images that are very, very strong contenders for submission to a competition. Okay. But because I only want to submit the very, very best, I'm going to be ruthless with my culling, and I'm going to dwindle those 10 down to maybe my 1 or 2 very, very best. Okay. So you're going to open up your images, maybe in the grid view. All right. And if you want to remove all kinds of distractions, you hit the tab key and it gets rid of the side panels, or you can do shift tab and it gets rid of everything except the grid. Okay. And then you say, okay, I'm going to look at these images objectively, and I'm going to say, okay, out of these 10, my strongest ones are maybe this one here, and I'm going to give it a 1 star. Okay. And maybe this one. All right. And why is it not showing my stars view options? Oops. Ratings and labels. Let's go to, yeah. Why is it not? Let's go ratings and labels. No. Okay. I don't know why it's not showing the stars there. All right, but I have it up here. I don't know if you can kind of sort of see it. There's a little 1 there. Okay, that's a 1 star. If oops, let's turn that zoom off. Okay, if I put 2 stars, it's going to change that to 2. Like I said, it sucks. Adobe's got to get on the ball with their user interface here. But you can see your star ratings, okay? So what you can do is you say, okay, I'm going to elevate that to 1 star. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to elevate that to 1 star, all right? And this one to 1 star. All right, and maybe I'll take this one to 1 star. All right, so you're gonna have a bunch of 1 stars. All right, it says, okay, well, you know, I gotta narrow it down even more. Okay, so out of all those 1 stars, now we can do a we can narrow it down. Okay, and if we go to our toolbar at the top, right up here, where it says attributes, we click on attribute. Okay, oops, yep. Oh, I have it set to to flags. Okay. Oh no, I have it set to color. Right? You can say I want to limit only my 1 star views. Okay, or anything. Rating is greater than or equal to 1 star. Okay, so now it's gotten rid of everything with no stars, and I can now concentrate on looking at just those. So let me expand it a little bit. And it says, okay, out of these 4, I kind of like this one, so let me go that to 2 stars. Let me bring this one to 2 stars, and I'll bring this one to 2 stars. This one didn't quite cut it. Okay, so now I can go to the top, go to 2 stars, and through process of elimination, I can narrow it down to the 1 or 2 really, really strong images. So that's one way you can do it. Okay, and I'm sure I didn't describe anything new to you guys on that one, right? All right, let me reset all those stars to 0. All right, I'm going to bring this back to my, what was it, file extension. Okay, all right. You can use the star rating in any way you like that makes sense to you. Okay, and what I just presented is probably the most common way that most people use it. All right. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is with the colors. Okay, what do the colors mean? Well, this is where it gets a little bit more ambiguous. All right, because this is where you really are imbuing a color with a label. All right, so for example, the way I use labels is different workflows, I will use a label in a slightly different way. Here's an example. I do event photos. Bill, you do event photos as well, so maybe you'll pick something up here. When I do event photos, I'll come home with 300 images. Okay, out of the 300 images, I might cull it down to 100. For that, I use my flags. Okay, from those hundreds, I might, by process of elimination, say, you know what, I'm just going to dwindle it down to the 50 best. And then I will start unflagging images. Okay, so let's say in the end, I have 50 images. Okay, and typically at that point, it's time to switch gears and go into editing the images. So I've narrowed the 300 down to 50 images. I now have to spend time editing 50 images. All right, but here's the thing. When I initially imported my images, I've already started editing them without me doing anything, because I have Lightroom applying a certain amount of edits to it automatically. So by default, all my images have already been edited, right? So it's not like I can look at the image and say, this one's been edited, this one has not been edited. So I need some kind of indicator to visually tell me what part of the workflow I'm in with the particular image, right? So typically, I tend to work in batches. If I say, okay, well, these 3 images are very, very similar. They're all going to get the same exact edit. So I will select them all, go into my develop module, okay? I'll make sure that, all right, what is going on here? Okay. I'll make sure that my sync, oops, come on, really? There we go. Can't get rid of that bar at the bottom. I'll make sure that my sync button is active to auto sync across. All right. And then I will edit that one. All right. Let me bring my film strip up. I'll go ahead and edit that one, and it will sync across to the other 2. Okay. So let's go back to the grid view. Now, just by looking at this, you can see what's been edited simply because the way I edit this makes it very obvious. But in reality, you may not notice the difference between an edited image and a non-edited image. So at that point, I say, okay, these 3 images are done. I will then assign them the green label, okay? And the green label is the number 8 on my keyboard, all right? Because it goes red, yellow, green, blue, right? Red, yellow, green, blue. And what that tells me now, when let's say I break to go have dinner, or I decide to call it a night and I'll come back the next day, I open up Lightroom, here's my grid view. I say, oh, these have already been edited. Now I know which ones I need to concentrate on, okay? If I am partially edited, okay, and the way I use it, let's say I have, perfect example, when I do events, I like to do panoramas, meaning I'll take a succession of 3, 4, or 5 images and pan across to be stitched together for a panoramic view, okay? Typically, those I will send to Photoshop to do some kind of finagling, tweaking, and then bring it back. All right. So after I've arranged the panorama, I'll group them. All right. I'll combine them in Lightroom using the panoramic mode, and I will assign it the yellow label. All right. And that's my number 7. Okay. So now when I look at it, yellow tells me there's been some editing done to it, but it's not finished. Okay, it's not finished. Okay. And then I will continue. All right. And then once I'm finished, when it comes back, then I can upgrade it to the green label. Okay. Red labels I might use if I want to pay particular attention to that. All right. Red usually tells me that I've done the editing to it, but it's going to require some special attention, typically during export. Okay. Meaning that it may need to be exported at 2 different sizes, or I may need to take it and create a duplicate and change the crop. There's something special about it that needs my attention. So red is like a stop sign, says, hey, you need to stop, pay attention to this image because it requires you to do something different. Okay, so that's my visual cue. All right, those are the tasks that I have assigned to those particular images within Lightroom when I'm shooting events. Okay, for client work, it tends to be a little bit different. Okay. I may assign the color green to a specific task for that it's designed for that particular client. You know, for example, the client may require certain number of images to be formatted for the web and a certain number of images that are formatted for print. All right. And I may use colors to differentiate the two. I may use green for the web, purple for the for print. Okay, so these are values that I assign that mean something to me within that workflow. All right, so this is where you need to kind of analyze what your workflow is and say, okay, I need to put some kind of marker to jog my memory that I've attained this point within the workflow, or I've accomplished this task, or it needs to be set aside for whatever else I need to do. Okay. And the color labels are a great way of doing it because, as you can see, they're very loud, very bold in your face. There's no question as to what it is that needs to be done. Let me just change that to yellow so you can see it. Okay. And like I said, the only one that's not available with the keyboard shortcut is the color purple. Okay. There are a couple others that you can access from, you know, right clicking. Okay. So let's go to this one here. All right. If I right click and I go down a little bit above middle here, you'll see set flag, set rating. Those are your stars. And set color label. Okay. None. Oh, that's right. They're available up here in the attribute. Okay. You're going to see a white and a kind of like a gray. All right. These 2 colors are filter colors. Okay. They're not going to be available for you to assign. All right. But they are available to pick that means something specifically within the filter. Okay. So let's get rid of my star ratings. Okay. The white means anything with a custom label, which I don't have any. Okay. And the gray means anything that is unlabeled with a color. So you can see I only have 3 that do not have some kind of color label. All right. So it's another way of reducing your viewport to get rid of extraneous elements. Okay. So, you know, I've already done the edits on the green ones. I'm partially done with the yellow one. I'm reserving the red one. What's left? All right. Now, in this case, I have a small handful of images, but imagine you have 100 images to go through. Clicking here kind of reduces that extra unwanted stuff. lets you concentrate specifically on what you need to concentrate. Once you assign it a label, it gets rid of that from view, okay? Because you have this selected right here, okay? So these two extra colors, they're not something that you select. It's just within the filter, okay? All right, any questions on using colors, using stars, or using flags? I know it's a lot to take in here. Okay. All right. The last thing I want to touch base on with this particular bar down at the bottom is if you go all the way to the right-hand side, well, there's a little slider that allows you to adjust the size of your thumbnails. That's pretty self-explanatory, but there's a little drop-down arrow. This allows you to hide certain elements from that bar. So for example, for me, like I mentioned earlier, I don't do any rotating. I don't do any selecting next and back. And I don't use the slideshow. So I tend to leave those off. So just uncheck the navigate, uncheck the rotate. Me, I don't like stars, so I usually have that unchecked. I don't like the spray can. It's called Painter. I usually have that unchecked, okay? So you can turn on and turn off what you want to see on that bar. It just cleans it up a little bit more, okay? All right, questions?
I have a question, maybe
Sure.
it's real basic, but you're in there with all these different filters, and so where's a real easy way to turn off all the filters
All right,
at once?
yep. Up at the top, you're gonna see none.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you turn that off. All right. So yeah, so let me go through that real quick. By default, the none is what's activated. All right. It allows you to see all your images. Okay. From there, you have three major areas that you can sort by. The first one is metadata. So any information that comes off the camera is available, and that includes keywords, what kind of lens you used. If you use multiple cameras like I do, you can select which camera you want to sort through by date. All right, and just like any of these, there is the little up and down arrow. All right, you click on that. It allows you to select how you want to sort on. Okay. If you have GPS information that gets recorded, you can get into the GPS information. But typically the common ones are towards the top of this list. You know, file type. If you have JPEGs and RAWs and you want to, you know, work on one or the other, you can select that. Your flag statuses, whether it's been edited or not. Again, I don't use that because everything gets edited right off the bat. Your focal length. If you have a zoom lens and, you know, you have been using several focal lengths, there's another way, you know, show me all the ones that I zoomed in on. All right. Aperture. Show me everything that I used f11 on. ISO, show me everything that I used, you know, 1600 ISO, because I'm going to need to, you know, control the noise on those. So it allows you to isolate those. Okay. So it really is, you know, a lot of information that you can sort, as far as being able to segregate one group from another. Okay. The next one is attributes, which is pretty much everything that we covered today. Your flag statuses, your ratings, all right? Whether you have edited photos only or non-edited photos, okay? star ratings, color ratings, and even what kind. We have photos, we have virtual copies, which I think I mentioned, and we have videos. Actually, let me sidetrack real quick. I want to get a poll. How many of you are interested in me discussing video editing with Lightroom? Anybody do anything with video editing? Light. It's definitely light video editing.
I haven't done any, but that's on my list of things I want to have looked at, which was part of the reason I bought this new computer. So yeah, video is something I want to
Okay.
start looking at.
All right. It's not, obviously, it's not a full-fledged video editor, but it allows you to do a limited amount of video editing, especially, you know, with color grading and exposure control and things like that. So if it's something you guys are interested, you know, definitely shoot me either private messages or emails. Let me know you're interested, and I'll put something together. They just did an update, a major update on some of their video editing capabilities. All right, so it's good to know. Sorry about the sidetrack. Let's get back to our regularly broadcast program. And then the last one, of course, is text. And this is any searchable field, you know, like I mentioned, keywords. Okay. I can't stress enough. It will not sort on keywords that are not there. If you rely on sorting through with keywords, if this is something that's important to you, you need to be in the habit of keywording your images when you bring them in. Okay. The easiest way is on ingest. You apply global keywords. You know, typically the location you shot at. If the event has a name, you might want to put that into the keywords. You know, if you are a travel photographer, maybe location, you know, where you are, things like that. And then as you're editing, take chunks, take groups and say, okay, these are, you know, for this local keyword. All right. Let's say you shot photos at a zoo. You select a bunch of photos to have the gorillas. You label those gorillas. Okay. You have a separate set that have the giraffes. You label those giraffes. And you have another set where you were over by the elephants. You select those. You give them, you know, the tag elephant. Okay. That way later on, 6 months, a year down the road, you want to put together a little book or a little slideshow, or, you know, you want to create an album on your website, and you want to show, you know, you want to look for all these, let's say, your very best giraffe images. So you're going to go text, giraffe, attribute, 5 stars, all right? And it's going to pretty much dwindle it down to those in your library. But like I said, you're not going to sort if it doesn't have anything to sort to. So make sure you are active with your tagging. All right. And that's pretty much it. And then when you want to get back to your normal view, you just go none and it'll show you everything. All right. And I should probably go select everything and reset all because these are my slides. Okay, unpick, and let's go remove labels. Okay, all right, we're open for questions.
Look, I noticed on top that you have Lightroom, Photoshop, Lightroom Classic.
Yep.
So, but you were talking mostly about Lightroom. So is that what is the difference between Lightroom and Lightroom Classic?
Yeah. So, Adobe decided that they're going to start pushing or developing a lot of their programs to work on a mobile platform. This. So,
Which one is working the best, Classic or Lightroom?
all right. So previously, this was called Lightroom, all right? And anything that can be used with a tablet was called Lightroom Mobile. And they said, somewhere along the way, they said, you know what? We're going to confuse everybody and we're going to switch it. This is now Lightroom. This is now Lightroom Classic. Okay? And to confuse things, Lightroom Mobile is now the internet-based browser, or I should say the browser-based version. It's, yeah, crazy. Hard to keep track. There are a lot of limitations with the mobile versions simply because these do not have the processing power that obviously a desktop does. So Lightroom Classic, in my opinion, is still the best one to work with if you want the full suite of tools. Okay? If you just want the basic tools, then you can use the regular Lightroom, which used to be Lightroom Mobile. Okay? And if you're in a pinch and want to be able to work on your images in the cloud through a browser, you can log into your account and use the browser-based version of Lightroom Mobile. And you're going to be very seriously limited in that respect. So just right. But, obviously there's a need for it. That's why they've been developing it. I don't know. Me, because of the type of work that I do, mostly studio work, and mostly local work. I'm not globe-trotting, I'll work with Lightroom Classic. So, okay.
Well, I found something recently because I just got a new computer and I put Lightroom Classic, of course, but then since it loaded up Lightroom, I've been taking a look at that.
Yep.
And I've been using Lightroom with my phone when I'm putzing around with photos I take with my phone.
Yes.
So what I've found is kind of neat is with Lightroom on my computer, it knows all about the photos that I took and farted around with on my phone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a nice little bridge for photos I take with my phone that I really want to do some serious work on in Lightroom Classic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So for that, it's kind of
yeah.
a neat little discovery.
And actually, since you mentioned possibly doing stuff with video, these are great little video cameras that everybody carries around, so that's a good way of being able to take video. I haven't tested it, so I'm not sure if I'm talking on my ass right now, but it should be a way of taking that video clip, bringing it into your desktop for full editing there. So who knows? Anybody want to create TikTok videos using Lightroom? Unfortunately, you can't. You're very limited to what you can do with Lightroom video. Me personally, I don't understand why they put in any kind of video editing into this software, simply because anybody who's serious about video editing requires more than what Lightroom can give. I don't know.
I tried it with either Photoshop or Lightroom, it's like, this can't do anything. You know,
Yeah.
I have video, I have video software. Adobe makes Premiere, which is very good.
Yes.
Um,
Well, that's a flagship program there. Yeah. Between Premiere and After Effects, that's industry standards right there.
yes.
You know. So, although some professional film houses will use DaVinci Resolve simply because they find it easier and more robust than Adobe products, but that's another story. So, all right. Any other questions on anything we covered? And yeah.
Quick question is, tonight when you were making the presentation, I think you briefly alluded to doing pre-editing, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
And I guess you're doing that with some type of presets.
Correct.
Can we consider that for a future topic? And another session and maybe go through that a little bit? I would be very interested in that opportunity. And one other thing to add to that, my wish list, so to speak, you might have done this in the past, but if you have an opportunity to refresh, or maybe for the new audience, talk about in Lightroom exporting. I've been trying to do it and I struggle a little bit, and that would be another topic I would be interested in.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically the two ends of the workflow, the import and the export.
Paradoxically, yes.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. It's in my notes. I'm sorry, what?
You answered my question, but I didn't like your answer. I didn't know if you could put keywords in once it's in Lightroom, and you said you can't. I didn't like that answer, but I got the answer.
Believe it or not, the keywording aspect of Lightroom is a lot more robust than people realize. There are multiple ways of editing your keywords. You can even create keyword lists in a spreadsheet and import it. Okay. This is obviously this is for more advanced users, or I should say more advanced photographers, or photographers that work within like a niche. For example, one example that I've seen is photographers that work in the area of botany. All right, cataloging and documenting flowers. There are, of course, the common name to a flower. Then there's the Latin name and genus and the whole morphology of, cataloging flowers, and which requires kind of like a rather complex hierarchy to the keywords, right? Because you can have keyword sets where, for example, once it's structured properly, let's say you have a photo of a daisy, but for that daisy, you also want the Latin name, and you want the species and the genus and the whatever else falls in line with that. You pre-build that into your keyword set, and all you do is click on the word daisy and it auto-fills everything else. All right. So it's very, very rich in that respect. Okay. Because you can build hierarchies. Car photographers. All right. They may have a list of manufacturers, models, types, and so on, that they can autofill. So, Chevy S10, okay? And it fills in all the information about that Chevy S10, and all they had to do was punch in Chevy S10, okay? So that's something that very in depth, you know, we'll reserve that for its own little segment down the road, okay? All right. Any other questions?
I have a question. It's not on what we covered tonight, but it's a Lightroom subject.
Okay.
And maybe it's just to point me in the right direction. I bought a new computer, and I thought that all I'd have to do is copy all the photo library and the catalog over, you know, just like it was on the other one, and that would work. It seemed to work, but there was some issues. And then as I looked further, I noticed there's some other issues. So, like for instance, when we're looking at all those photos tonight, you know, and the other one where you've got all the information up above, you know, file name, file type, and the other things that you can assign. All I see on my installation of Lightroom is kind of a big number. Kind of a, you know, like a faded background number that's big and.
Oh, okay. Yes. I got you now. Yeah. All right. So let me let's get rid of, where's my classroom photos? Here we go. All right. Let me go back and share the screen again. Screen share. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so there are two views that you can have for your thumbnail, okay?
Okay.
And if you right click on the frame and you go all the way down to the bottom where it says view options,
Okay.
okay, it's going to show you whether you want the grid or what you want on the grid view, okay? And at the top it says expanded cells, all right? Or you can have compact cells, okay? And if you look at the compact cells, that's probably what you're seeing.
Yep.
Okay. Some people, this is okay. Me, I'm an information junkie. I like seeing information. So I like the click on the bottom, expanded cells. Okay. I like having all that information. In particular, what's important for me is that post crop dimension. All right. Simply because I do a lot of client work and I want to make sure that I'm within certain limits when I'm editing an image. And I don't want to step below, you know, their requirements. Okay. But within this little dialog box, you can set a bunch of parameters. Okay. Show clickable items on mouse over only. All right. So meaning when you mouse over the thumbnail, it's going to show certain information. The amount of tint that is given by the label color. All right, let me close this out. Let's give that a let's give it a green. Okay, when the image is selected, the frame is selected, you can see that the frame highlight is the most predominant thing, and you'll see a color frame around it, right? As soon as I click off, that color fills the entire frame. That degree of color opacity is something that you can set. So view options, tint grid cells, all right? Anything from 10% up to 50%. All right, with the default, as you can see, being 20%. Okay, now I have old eyes. Okay, so there's green. Let's give this one yellow. Okay. Look at the very slight difference between those two. I've confused yellow for green in the past. So that 20% doesn't work for me. All right. I need a little bit more color contrast, simply because I am color deficient to begin with. Okay. So I max it out at 50%. And now look at the color contrast between. There's no guessing which one's green and which one's yellow. All right. So that's an option that's available. Okay. And then you can just, go down the cell icons. Okay. Which ones do you want showing? All right. Flags, thumbnail badges, unsaved metadata, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then, of course, that's for the expanded cells. And for the compact cells, what do you want to display? Okay. And for the expanded cells, what do you want to display? So you can preset them here. All right. There it is. Show rating footer. That's where it was. I was looking for that earlier. Okay. You can see your star ratings right on the grid. Okay. I don't use star ratings. That's why it was deactivated of mine. And that's why I had a hard time finding it. All right. But any of these you can select here. But like I said, you can also click up here and select them from here as well. All right. So this is great if you want to do a temporary, say I just want to common attributes, unflagged, no rating, green, or, I want to display something else. Okay. And step away from the default. Okay. So hopefully that helps. And
well, that shows that that part of the question, that it was a symptom of something, but my larger question, I guess, is it appears I don't know how to migrate a Lightroom from one computer to another. And there must be some way, I think I was naive thinking I could just do wholesale copies, but there's more to it, I'm guessing. Because what I've lost is, remember when we made vignetting presets?
mm-hmm.
Those got lost, and I had a bunch of copyright things on the export.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes.
And the other thing, which I didn't really confirm, but I took a look at a couple images, and they look like I'd edited them, but when I look over at the bar, it doesn't look like any editing has been done. It's almost, and I can't confirm this, but it appears as though it took my edits, saved them, and then marked all the, the sliders back to 0. If that makes sense. But either way, it looks like my idea of what I was trying to do to copy this over was naive.
Yeah, I unfortunately, there are some things within Lightroom that they really don't advertise. So for example, the issue with the presets. When you make a custom preset, it puts it into a special folder within the Lightroom structure of your operating system. Okay, there's a specific folder, specifically for presets, develop presets, export presets. Okay. The problem is those folders are attached to the version of Lightroom that you have. Okay. So like, for example, back in the day, I made a bunch of presets for Lightroom 3. And I was just like you, naive about the workings of Lightroom. And I loaded Lightroom 4 got rid of Lightroom 3, all right, thinking that all that work that I did would have migrated to Lightroom 4. Nope. It went out with the bathwater.
I'm on
So,
the same versions.
huh?
I'm on the same versions, and what this doesn't
Yeah, but you did a fresh install. Or you did a fresh install, right? And you just brought your catalog over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just your catalog. That's none of the presets whatsoever. Those are in a separate folder. All right.
So, but I mean, no, wait. Let me explain it then. What I did was I have this huge folder and it's called Photos. And inside of it, there's something called LR Catalog.
Yep. That's your
And
catalog.
inside that is where the actual catalog file is and a bunch of other folders and all the previous versions and that whole shebang. Now, I copied that whole thing over.
Yep.
So in doing that, I still missed something? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no point in me trying to save all that shit.
Well, all right. So the workaround to that is, one, you need to know where those folders are that it saves the presets to. Okay. And if memory serves me correct, let me see if I can find it here. Preferences, I think. Presets. Okay. Okay, here we go. So you go edit, preferences, second tab over is presets. And then towards the about a little bit halfway down, you're going to see show Lightroom develop presets and show all other Lightroom presets. Okay. When you click on those, it's going to take you to the folder where you have your presets. All right. So there's the folder that's selected, but I want you to see where this is located. All right. It's in my Camera Raw Adobe roaming. All right. And if I go further, all right, this PC, all right, it's in my roaming Adobe Camera Raw, which is not a user generated folder structure. Okay. So what they recommend is if you're going to transfer over, that you actually come in here and look for your whatever. All right, so here's my tethered information, right? My linear gradient, all right? Any of the ones that you create, obviously you need to kind of recognize what you created. And, oops, that's the same one. Show all others. All right, there we go. Lightroom. Filter presets. Okay. Import presets. Okay. Lightroom. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not Lightroom. User presets. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. You have a telephone call.
No. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. You'll need to take them from these folders and save them somewhere before you, and then put them into their respective folders onto the new system. That's the only way.
When you said they recommend, is there something out there that I didn't chase down? I didn't RTFM and read that there's some sort of
yeah, they don't. Are you kidding? You think Adobe's going to make it easy for us? You think they're going to say, "Hey, this is what you need to do"? No, like anything, we need to do the due diligence and second guess what we need to do, and then look it up and make sure that we're doing it right. Yeah.
Well, if I go through this exercise, will I find what are they? My copyright symbols or signatures that I've made.
You should be able to, yeah. If you have access to your old computer, yeah, dig through. Then you have to make sure that they go into the same folder that they're coming out of on the new machine. Otherwise, it's not going to recognize it. Okay. Yeah, they don't tell you that's what you need to do, and it's just by sheer coincidence that I, after redoing the work a couple of times and saying this is ridiculous, there's got to be a way to preserve this work. I went digging for it and found out that that's what they recommend, is copying it out of that folder and moving it into, the new one, right? Nowadays, because they're not quite. Every time you upgrade now, they're still keeping the same folder structure. The only time that'll change is if there's an actual number jump. Like, what are we? What are we? Version 11. All right. If they decide to go to version 12, they'll probably end up doing that, where they create a version 12 folder, all right, separate from your version 11 folder. And then now all your presets are here. You're now working with the system here. And you're like, where's all my presets? You got to then drag them. It's a pain in the ass. But
I spent my life as a computer programmer, and this is what I dealt with every day.
And guess what? We're still dealing with it,
Yep. Let me tell you about my printer issues.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when we did mainframe version releases, we would do them on a Saturday night, have the client come in on Sunday to test, and if it worked right, we at least back it off, put it back to where it was before.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately now, they've gone a lot better, but yeah, it's those minor little things that we never think about that, become aggravated after the fact. So
I will say, with this computer I bought, that I figured it's going to take me 2 to 3 weeks to get it fully the way I want it, and everything moved over. But the hard stuff that I thought was going to take a couple weeks, the way they moved that stuff, and especially in the Google world, 10 minutes. But yeah, now getting connected to printers and Wi-Fi and others, and this kind of thing is kind of interesting.
Funny, I never did this, but isn't there software to do a mirror? So what's on one computer can go to another computer?
I believe there is.
There is, but that presents its own problems as well.
Yeah. Like I said, I spent my career doing this kind of stuff, and it's just easier not to.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you're in that mode, there is, because we used to do training, and when we were done, we would just blow new images on computers because the students would muck them up so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, to get it set up the first time to do it, then there's really more hassle in the setup.
Yeah.
That's why. That's really what it is. If you're going to do that kind of stuff for bunches of stuff, it's worth it. But.
Yeah, but to touch on the mirroring software, the downside to that is if you have a mess that you're trying to clean up, mirroring only mirrors the mess.
That's why I never did mirroring.
That's why I don't recommend it. Yeah.
That's why when I wanted to do something new, I wanted to start from scratch, and being the anal control freak that I am, I wanted.
Well, but not only that. I mean, you're talking about a system that maybe you've been using for 5 years. It's accumulated a lot of junk. Your knowledge has grown. You've learned new, more effective ways of working. why would you want to copy all the bad habits onto the new system? You know, so I usually say, hey, start fresh. Here's your opportunity to clean house, get rid of the cobwebs, get rid of all the stuff, all the crap that you don't need. Start fresh with, you know, the new tools and the new workflow and the new knowledge that you've acquired. So, but anyway, any other questions? Today's good class.
That was my, I know it looked minor to somebody, but that was a major question for me that you answered. It's like, okay, how do I unselect all this stuff? You know,
Yeah.
because it was driving me crazy. Because sometimes I haven't done that. You know, I've done a roundabout way of doing this. I export, and then I want to export some different pictures a different way.
Yeah.
And because of the selection thing, I wasn't able to do it. So now I can.
Awesome. All right, here I am. I'm trying very hard to listen to you, Bill, but I'm being my attention's being sidetracked by Catherine's puppy. Look at that, making an appearance. How cute.
Oh, there we are. Hi, Catherine. I'll bring my cat in.
That's funny. So, all right. Any other?
Good-looking dog. What kind of dog is that, Catherine? Sheepdog?
Pound dog, so I think it's a poodle of some kind.
Oh, it does look like a poodle.
Like
Nice
one of the
dog.
like a toy poodle type thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
She's a part of a bonded pair. The other one's staring at us.
Oh.
That's funny. Awesome. Any other questions for before we wrap this up? No?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the dog.
Oh no, it's awesome. Absolutely, yeah. So, all right, guys. Thank you once again for joining me for another episode of Learn Photography with Duck, our Lightroom edition. Next Monday is Photoshop, and I don't know if Carol is back and if she'll be joining us. I want to get to answer her question about swapping skies and things like that. So I think we're gonna go into that next Monday, even if she's not here. We'll dive deep into doing some sky swaps. Okay. Almost forgot. If any of my Patreons want to come in, not next week, but the following week into the studio to do something here in the studio, hit me up and let's make it happen. Like I said, I want to get some of these live classes in. Okay. So I want to open it up to you guys who are my Patreon members. Okay.
Third Monday in the month?
The third Monday, yes.
I'm busy that day.
Damn it, Alan.
I wanted to stay busy, but now I overbooked myself. And that's
Yeah. I know the feeling. I know. Yeah.
I'll do this. All of a sudden, whoa, my calendar is all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. All right. Well, maybe, in November, we'll see. All right. So if anybody else wants to come in, hit me up, shoot me an email, shoot me a message through Facebook, whatever's easiest, and let me know, and we'll make arrangements. If not, maybe I'll hound my model friend and get her in here, and we'll do something, we'll do something with flash or posing or something. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you once again. I really, really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay warm now that the warm weather is behind us. So, okay. All right, guys.
Thanks, Doc.
Be
Thank you,
good.
Doc.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thanks for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.